So you're designing the next game in the series, be that the follow-up to a cult hit or a sales chart smash, or both. A new story, a new world, bigger, brighter, better, expansive horizons acting as the frame for a veritable wealth of things to do. Whatever the choices you make, you know good and well that the scope has to increase. You can't just do more of the same. But that's not necessarily true, is it? Escalation doesn't always equate enhancement. In some cases it can diminish the intended experience. And sometimes, in order to create a follow-up that leaves a lasting impression, you have to look deep into the very soul of your creation. What if, instead of crafting something new, something with that quickly waning wow factor, you stayed put, offered up a showcase of the lasting appeal of your game world, and, in turn, helped to establish a quietly iconic franchise? This is the story of one such saga, an era-spanning epoch of conspiracy, karaoke, and flaming fists. This is the story of Kamurocho. One of the things that has consistently impressed me about Sega's brilliant, verbose diplomacy with fists simulator is how fresh they keep their games, in spite of each entry ostensibly being exactly the same. You're plonked down in a familiar place, at the apex of a crime syndicate conspiracy, and you must punch and kick every problem until it's solved. Actually, that's not quite true. Sometimes you have to sing karaoke or give some sagely advice to an upstart ruffian. The point is, the Yakuza series has been one of quantum incremental changes, a contender for most literal interpretation of ain't broke, don't fix. But with each new sequel, prequel, and spin-off, fans love it that little bit more. It is such an unusual situation to be in. Returning to Kamurocho time and time again, still eager to explore, to see what's changed, and, more importantly, what's stayed the same. Because the Dragon of Dojima may be the one on the box art, but Kamurocho is Yakuza's main star. Inspired by Kabukicho, Shibuya's infamous red light district, the spiritual birthplace of one Kazuma Kiryu is a small, crushingly dense maze of restaurants, gambling dens, convenience stores, and bars. But even with such a relatively humble map size, the number of interactable buildings within is even more modest. Outside of the functional amenities and playpens, interior locations are limited, reserved as one-offs for side quests, and slightly larger arenas for the game's big chapter finales. And this modesty is needed. It keeps the player on a tight leash, gently but firmly guiding them towards the content that matters. You never find yourself somewhere without purpose, and even through aimless wandering, you'll always discover something in the environment to engage with. Kamurocho is an interesting case study of world design, because while it has a number of striking landmarks across its map, the real seat of its iconography lies elsewhere. You have the bright lights and buzz of humanity that is Tenkaichi Street, host to the Serena Bar and Stardust, your homes away from home. The comforting claustrophobia of the Champion District, a tight grid of buildings headlined by two bars, Earth Angel and Shellac. There's the jazzy showmanship of Theatre Avenue, the danger and intrigue of Nakamichi Alley. And then there's Millennium Tower, the perpetually exploding epicenter of the series' countless showdowns. These places are recognisable without being standout. They do have an attributive quality that makes them valuable to the overall makeup of the city's identity, but that's not why players are so eager to return with each new iteration. Because the real appeal of Yakuza isn't the main storyline. It isn't the shirtless frenzied combat or the frankly ludicrous checklist of things to do. It's the individual bespoke stories that flesh out the game world. Yakuza's sub-stories are what breathe life into Kamurocho. Its landmarks discernible not for aesthetic iconography, but for the memories of your interactions with its residents. You may pass by Cafe Alps and be struck by a fleeting memory of the murder you helped solve there. The hauntingly beautiful Public Park 3 sat opposite an alley where you once snuck into after promising to buy pornography for a child. Or perhaps the lingering image of the grotty toilets outside West Park remind you of the secret entrance to underground Den of Vice Purgatory. Or maybe it's simpler than that. A smaller recollection of visiting the batting cages in the hotel district. Or the comforting sight of a friendly M-Store employee. Sega's trump card with the series and its locales has always been its humanity. A nuanced understanding of how people form emotional bonds, coming from a franchise renowned for its often absurd presentation. And returning back time and time again to find everything just how you remember it is such an atypical kind of experience for a video game franchise. In fact, very few titles manage to achieve this sense of continuity. And often, when a procession returns to a familiar place, it has changed in a dramatic manner, or the focus is on a previously unseen part of the map, or the thing is a wholesale reimagining. But Kamurocho, for the most part, stays the same. And thanks to some no doubt dark magic, the stasis starts off endearing, but quickly gets under your skin. So much so that when later entries started offering new cities to explore, my immediate thought is always, when do I get to go back home? The other cities aren't badly designed. Yakuza 3's Okinawa is a strong second place contender, and the recent return of Sotenbori in Yakuza 0 shows that the developers understand what makes the franchise so appealing. But neither city are Kamurocho, and as petty as that may sound, it's become a bit of a red flag. In Yakuza 5, returning to Kamurocho was the end goal of what turned out to be a very long journey, and in my opinion this ultimately hurt the game. The new cities were, honestly, quite dull. They felt soulless, as though you were a stranger held there only by some wicked curse and working away your sins. A grayscale penance perhaps designed to elevate the impact of returning to the big city in the game's final act. Only, for me, it backfired. It's hard to really put my finger on what makes Kamurocho such a great city to explore. What about it that's endlessly endearing? I think it might be in part the shape of the city that triggers something primal and comforting in me whenever I play. That not quite square with the lumpy bit at the top. That's the good stuff. Yeah. It's a remarkable achievement, refined very little over nearly a dozen titles, to succeed at making the relative ordinariness of Kamurocho feel memorable, where countless other game worlds fail. And perhaps it's that normalcy that seals the deal, makes it feel just like any other place. The careful juxtaposition between the small list of always accessible establishments and these other places only available in specific circumstances leads to a lot of the map appearing functionless for large stretches of your time with the game. Dead ends and empty corners that hold no mechanical value, only a contingent emotional reaction. Because wherever you hail from, wherever you grew up, or whatever place is close to your heart, even a place you have grown cold to, grown to despise more than any other location on the planet, the seat of those emotional reactions, what you remember of a place, is not what it is, but what you did there. It's because of this that Kamurocho feels authentic, and more importantly feels like home. A place you can return to without repetition fatigue. Because all of the other stuff in Yakuza games, the brutal combat, the garish and oft incomprehensible minigames, and the endless cutscenes of men rolling off lists of names, because that's all the main plot lines are, don't pretend they aren't. When all that stuff starts to lose its appeal, the warming familiarity of the city remains. That's good world design right there.
話は通しておく。風間慎太郎。